extreme weather is affecting different parts of the globe. But in the US in particular, more than 70 million people, that's 1 in 5 Americans, are under heat alerts this week. Extreme temperatures reaching as high as 105 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. Forecasters are warning that the early summer heat wave could be the longest in decades. An approaching heat dome threatens to bring record-setting temperatures across the Midwest and Northeast for up to a week. Meanwhile, in California, wildfires near Los Angeles continue to burn out of control as firefighters struggle to contain the flames. And in the state of New Mexico, wildfires have been burning through 20,000 acres, impacting at least 500 structures and forcing thousands to evacuate. Let's speak to Yasmin Ansari. And Yasmin is a former vice mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, and the former UN climate advisor. Hello, welcome to the program. Arizona, of course, well-known desert area. I wonder if we could first start off with a heat dome. What do we mean by that?
The heat dome discusses what is happening in the atmosphere, whereas the impact on the ground is talking about a heat wave. As you mentioned, right now in the United States, we are seeing heat emergencies being declared across the United States, in particular in the Northeast, as the heat index is hitting triple digits. Here in Arizona, we are very much used to extreme heat, but in many of these places in the United States where there's also the humidity aspect, many are feeling very challenging times. And so we're seeing leaders begin to declare those emergencies and acting as such.
So once declared as an emergency, what happens next?
Well, so it's interesting. In every city, every state is handling the situation differently. At this point in time, the federal government in the United States, FEMA, which is the agency that deals with natural disasters, has not officially declared extreme heat a natural disaster. There is an ongoing call that many of our elected officials, labor unions, organizations are calling on FEMA to do so. That would help unlock federal resources. However, every jurisdiction is handling it differently. Here in Phoenix, again, we work every year to prepare for extreme heat because we see hundreds of deaths every single summer as a result of extreme heat. And so we have an Office of Heat Response. We open cooling centers across the city. This year, we are opening several overnight heat respite centers to make sure people have a place to go. I know cities across the Northeast are doing the same right now. Things are being canceled. Cooling centers are being opened. But there's a lot of proactive planning that many places in the United States and across the world, frankly, are going to have to start doing as we see the impacts of climate change and worsening heat waves moving forward.
And often after a heat wave, you have the additional problem of once that weather system breaks down, you get rain, don't you? And it's falling onto hard, baked ground, and you then get the risk of flooding.
Yes, I mean, there are so many consequences that come from all of the impacts of climate change, extreme heat included. One of the most severe impacts, and one of the things that we have to think about is places in the country and the world that maybe populations don't have access to air conditioning. Here in Phoenix, we often see, a lot of people have air conditioning here, but some of our most vulnerable populations are impacted. And we're seeing HVAC systems that need to be replaced. We're seeing people who don't want to pay, are worried about their rent and utility bills, and so may not turn on their AC and then suffer an illness. So not only do you see floods and all of the impacts related to the weather following heat, there's also the impacts and the aftermath to our populations, and especially the most vulnerable.
And what about wildlife? Because, yes, I know Arizona obviously is, like we said, a desert, arid area, but this extreme heat must affect the wildlife as well. Is there something that those working in that sector do to prepare, just as you've described?
That is a great question. I mean, every sector has to be prepared. Our farming communities are actively preparing. In Arizona, water security is something we worry very closely about. We have to manage our water future. We worry about water conservation. And so drought is something that we are constantly working on and in particular around the extreme heat, making sure that our wildlife is being taken care of. So it's a multifaceted problem. I think the most urgent threat we face is climate change. And we all sectors of government, all sectors of society need to be working towards solutions for this issue because it's not going away. There are many climate impacts that are already locked in and will continue to get worse as years progress.
Okay, Yasmin Ansari, thank you very much indeed.